Infinity Gamer here, and welcome as my Shasvastii take on a USAriadna force. It's an interesting game. I'm excited. Never played this before, and it's been a while since I played Shaz, so let's have a look at the list. I've brought along a Gwailo with the heavy missile launcher. I've got the Caliban. I have the Sheskiin. I have Speculo Killer. I have 3 Noxes who are in a fire team, and I actually have the Sheskiin in the fire team with them. I also have the Mentor, who is my lieutenant, and I have a Malignos as well. So that's my entire list. Not very many. It's a bit of a light, bit of an elite specialist force. And yeah, let's see how I get on as we go into the pre-game. So in terms of deployments, I win the roll and I decide to make him deploy first in the hope that that gives me a bit of a sense as to what he's going to do, and then I can hopefully react to that. What are we looking at? So I know he's got some devil dogs. He's got a fire team of people. He tries to do 2 of his infiltrating grunts first. One of them fails to deploy in my half. I think they have a rule where they have to try and deploy in my half, so that means a roll. The first one fails, so he tries with the second one. The second one fails. They've both got flamethrowers, so I know they're going to be pretty scary, so I'm quite lucky to have avoided them. Successfully landing in my half. He's got, devil dogs. He basically finishes his deployment, and I'm also going to just throw up some photos of what he's done and where, so that those of you that know what's actually going on will be able to tell what things are where. So he's kind of got the fire team on the left-hand side of the map. There's quite a few camo tokens hidden around the place. He's got, obviously, the bike units. He's got the devil dogs. He's got Warcore, which this guy takes pretty much all the time, and it generally is an annoying distraction. He's got the blackjack, which is the fancy-looking avatar thing. Another bike. Wild Bill. Yeah, there's a couple of things, and obviously the ones that the infiltrating grunts that failed their first roll. Comes to the end of deployment. I then don't have a lot that's actually down on the table that you can see, but then I've got some other stuff around. So I've got the Gwailo, which is kind of the main thing. I try and give it good covering fire because I know it can be quite scary. I keep the Sheskiin and the 2 Noxes kind of hidden back. They're currently in a fire team, so that hopefully the AROs discourage anything from really coming anywhere near. Ikadron, far left, facing kind of the corner, just to cover anything that might AD drop or walk in behind, like Victor Mesa or anything like that. Then I've got the other Ikadron kind of covering the back of that other Ikadron, so they're kind of, even though they're in 2 different order pools, they're working together to cover each other. Then I've got Dr Worm kind of sitting under the stairs. Yep, don't let the serious bot model fool you. It is a Dr Worm, I promise. And then in terms of hidden deployments, there's then a couple of camo tokens near the Gwailo. Those are my mentor lieutenant, with the one in the lower area actually being the mentor and the one at the top being his decoy. There's then a Caliban, which is in camo right up front. He has the chain of command special rule. Yeah, so he's pretty cool. And then in TO camo, I have the Malignos, which is kind of sitting forward. Not sure what I'm going to do with him, but yeah, I'll do him in full hidden deployment so that he doesn't give away that he exists. And I'm hoping that that's potentially a scary option. I think that's pretty much everything of mine. I've got quite a lot of high point things, which is obviously good because in Infiltrate, which is the mission that we're playing, you obviously want to have a lot of points in an area to hold it, but it's also a few models. So if I lose 1 or 2 of them, then I'm kind of done. My order pool is also pretty light, which is not ideal. At the end of my deployment, I've got the Speculo Killer as well. How could I forget Speculo Killer? Probably because it's an impersonator and I don't know what to do with it really. I'm pretty sure that's now everything, but yeah. I forget to hold a model back, so we get to the end of deployment and I have deployed everything, which is just a rookie move. And what else do I forget? And I also forgot to read the mission before I built this list and brought it. You need a forward observer to be your liaison officer, which scores you extra points if they're in the middle. and I think your opponent automatically scores that if you don't have a forward observer. So I didn't bring a forward observer, so I don't have a liaison officer. So 2 really stupid moves straight off the bat, and we haven't even rolled any dice yet. And then unfortunately he held back an infiltrating grunt to place in my deployment zone, and this one of course succeeds its roll. So yep, ends up being parked pretty close to everything. So start of turn 1. He's going first. I use my commands token to take 2 orders from his pool, which has 6 regular orders, and then loads of impetuous and irregular. That's the pool that has the devil dogs in it and the grunt that infiltrated successfully, so the infiltrating grunt. But yeah, he's still got heaps of impetuous and irregular orders. And then the fun begins. So he starts. He begins by moving one of his bikes up. The bikes are really cool models, by the way, which is why there's probably more photos of them than there should be. They move up. The Gwailo shoots in ARO, but the bike survives the shooting, which is obviously good for him. Then he chooses for another bike to move up, and that tries to throw smoke but fails. I don't think there are no AROs that it faces from that. The Devil Dog also has his impetuous move, and it walks, which triggers a mine to go off, and the Gwailo shoots at it. So the Gwailo crits on the big dog and manages to kill the second dog because I used the blast marker with the Gwailo, which is obviously good. The big dog, which is the human dog, has 2 wounds and is immune, so he's down to 1 wound. But is immune to the fire. Special rule from the Gwailos, heavy rocket launcher. So yeah, doesn't burn and burn and burn, which is obviously annoying, but that's okay. So what happens next? So the second bike moves up using its irregular order then, which is fine, so moves. Then the infiltration guy moves forward. I choose to reveal the mentor to shoot at it. I get really confused here, which is why I do this. It's obviously a terrible move to anyone who knows how to play Infinity slightly better, because the mentor is my lieutenant. He was also in Camo and prone, so was pretty safe. The reason why I did it was because when the infiltration guy finished his move, I thought his line of fire was facing the wrong direction. So I thought it was going to be a free shot in the back, completely forgetting that with how Infinity works, while you're moving, you pretty much have 360 line of fire, because it can be assumed that you're pretty much moving forwards and spinning around, or at least facing the direction that you need to be facing to shoot. Whereas when you're in your reactive turn, which I'm in, where your line of fire faces matters hugely, because you can't shoot where you're not facing unless you've got special abilities like 360 visor and things like that. Yeah, I revealed the mentor based off an assumption I'd made because I forgot the basic mechanics of the game. So of course, reveal the mentor to shoot the infiltration guy. My opponent goes to flame the mentor because now he's revealed, he can do whatever he likes. The mentor gets hit with the flamethrower and dies, of course. So just through my own stupidity, I lose quite a valuable model very early on. I obviously tell my opponent that I've lost my lieutenant, but I'm not panicking at this stage because the Caliban I've got has the chain of command, so at least I don't go into loss of lieutenant, which would be devastating in first turn. It's happened to me several times before, and it sucks. So then the infiltration guy uses another order to go around the corner and hunt down the Nox that are hiding around the back. I think he's basically trying to go for Sheskiin, and as they're part of the fire team, he thinks he can flame the whole lot, which sucks. So I choose to break the Link team because I want to keep Sheskiin alive. I don't care as much about the whole Link team thing. They only really existed to run up with Sheskiin if possible and give her loads of buffs to being able to shoot. So I break the Link team, dodge with the middle Nox and Sheskiin, and then choose to shoot back using the Zapper on the one that is basically facing the infiltration guy. So how it pans out is that Sheskiin and the Nox successfully dodge, which is good, but the first Nox takes a flamethrower to the face and becomes Crispy Duck. He successfully zaps infiltration guy, so at least he's in isolated mode, which just means that other orders now can't be spent on him, I think. It's the first time I've come across isolated mode, so apologies if that's completely wrong. But it meant that basically, lots of orders couldn't be spent on him. He could only use his own orders, like his irregular order and things like that, I think. So the motorbike man continues to move up. He shoots the Gwailo. I save them all but one, so I'm down to 1 wound on the Gwailo, which is fun. The second bike decides to now move up. There's a big theme. Playing against this opponent, he loves to have loads of fast-moving things that just get in your face really quickly, and I'm experiencing that right now. And my AROs aren't set up very well. As you can probably tell, my Ikadrons are now too far back. They have flamer templates, and I forgot, because this is my first time using Ikadrons. So they're in a terrible position, and they would be great if they were just covering better arcs and giving better options. But instead, I'm relying pretty much purely on the Gwailo for all of these AROs first turn. So my deployment is terrible. So second bike moves up. He then spends an irregular ordo on a Camo token, moves it up, which then goes into the little cake shop area. Moves Wild Bill, no AROs faced, so then moves again. Moves the dog to go near the Speculo to try and discover the Speculo. Luckily fails, but as you can probably see by his positioning, is then blocking the Speculo from doing anything, because the dog is so big that the Speculo can't go around or do anything at all. So even though he failed to discover, at least he's kind of pinning the Speculo, and the only option the Speculo really has is to go up the ladder, if it survives beyond this first turn. He then spends a command token to change an irregular order to a regular order and decides to move the Camo token. No AROs, but he then reveals a Foxtrot forward observer with 2 mines left, because as you would notice in the image, he dropped a little camo token, which definitely isn't a mine. Bike man moves again. Choose to dodge change face on the Gwailo. So the worm is actually the target of all of this nonsense, and gets hit by all 5 shots, and it's pretty low stuff as well. It's like all the rolls are lower than 6, I think, or lower than 5. One of them is a crit, so of course Dr. Worm dies straight away, having done nothing and not been in a place to do anything really. So I really played that model wrong again. The bike moves up to the corner. The Nox zaps and the Sheskiin dodges. He shoots everything at the Nox. 2 of them miss, but the Nox is dead. The Nox successfully zaps the bike, so he's also isolated, which again doesn't mean a huge amount to me at this stage, but it's probably better than nothing. So a regular order on a different Camo token, which then moves and moves. Then he activates the Blackjack, which is a scary looking thing, but also looks amazingly cool. So I learn about this, that it's not a tag, it's heavy infantry that looks like a tag, but can do lots of things that a tag can't. So tags, I've never played against one, but I kind of get the impression that they're big robots, and because of such, they're pretty durable and hardy, but can't do a lot of things because they're robots. So they can't do things like go prone. But the Blackjack, despite being the size of a tag, and being very heavy and very durable, can do all those things. So it can go prone, which is obviously good for him. So the Blackjack moves and moves, faces no AROs, so yay. Then spends another order to move, no AROs, so moves again. And then the last order goes on the motorbike, and he moves to go and tries to discover the Caliban, but fails. So that's the end of his turn 1. What have I learned? He's got lots of orders. He's got lots of things that can move incredibly quickly, and that can do huge amounts of damage if they get close enough, which sometimes they can because they're Camo tokens. This is the same guy who I've played those 2 TAC Ariadna games against. So there's definitely a style where it's lots of cheap stuff that gets thrown up the board incredibly quickly. If you shoot it and kill it, it's no great loss, because, well, he's kind of developed the order pool. They were cheap units anyway, but you're spending AROs to try and kill them. Sometimes you're being put in difficult decisions, and if it gets in your face, it's going to do a lot of damage, because they're chain rifles, they're flamethrowers, they're a whole bunch of stuff that when it gets in amongst you, it messes you up. So It's it's definitely his style of play, and it's difficult to combat because a lot of this chaff as well, if you're laying mines, like I found with my O12, I'm using mad traps to try and, stop anything that comes up. He's just throwing cheap stuff up the board. So if it gets glued or if it triggers a mine, it doesn't matter. But it might also make you reveal a camo token, and it might make you do some stupid things. So every army, I think, could use this strategy. Do I want to be playing that style? Probably, because it clearly works. But anyway, so then going into my turn 1, I use my command token to switch the Gwailo from my tiny pool, which is now even more depleted, move him into the bigger pool, so that at least he's got more orders to hopefully mess stuff up, because he is quite good at doing that. He activates and moves, which, because of how my opponent ended his turn, means that there's about 5 models that can see the Gwailo. So he chooses to dodge with pretty much all of them, but I'm basically going to be shooting the bike, because that's what I can see, but the infiltrator's caught in the blast too. So the infiltrator chooses to dodge the blast, but fails and burns to death, and the bike dodges and is alive. So that's annoying. Luckily, Dogman, who was also able to see the Gwailo, chose to dodge, and then he moves the 2 inches from his dodge, so that actually the Speculo could now move and do stuff. The Ikadron that's in the small order pool moves up, doesn't face any AROs, so moves again. So he reveals the 2 camo tokens that are there. One of them's a decoy and the other's a hard case. The hard case misses, which is lovely. And now I feel like the Ikadron's actually in a good position to do something in the future. Then it activates Sheskiin. Then foolishly, this is definitely a tale of foolish decisions, the Malignos appears-ish, but only in like TO camo, so that I can start to get orders, because obviously I didn't get an order because it was in hidden deployment at the start of my turn, and I'm struggling with orders already. Everything that could see his TO delays, and I just decide to go prone and move, so nothing really happens there. But he exists so that he can generate an order for me in the future. I then decide to activate the Gwailo. He moves. The opponent decides to dodge with the bike and the infiltrator. I shoot the bike. Both my shots hit and kill him, which is fantastic. And then I decide to move the Sheskiin. Doesn't face any AROs, so decide to move the Sheskiin again and hopefully put it in a better position to do stuff, because the Red Fury is actually a pretty good gun. That's all my orders used. I haven't done what I really want to do. Like, I wanted to kill more stuff, maybe even put things in suppressive. I realised my deployment was atrocious. I lost my mentor too early. I didn't really think about the mission. I haven't played Shasvastii for a while. I'm making excuses. I know this for a fact, but I just played terribly. So yeah, anyway, it goes into his turn 2. His order pool hasn't really been depleted much, and a lot of things are generating regular orders, and impetuous orders, so it doesn't actually feel like I've done much at all. So the big dog has to move because he's got an extreme impetuous. Moves towards the Gwailo. Gwailo and Sheskiin both ARO. They choose to shoot because I just want to kill stuff. Gwailo misses. Well done, Belli. But the Sheskiin hits, which is fantastic, and puts the big dog unconscious. So definitely a success, as far as I'm concerned. Blackjack activates. Annoyingly is able to cautious move, despite having like a tiny move profile, across the Gwailo's line of fire. So the Gwailo can see, but because it's a cautious move, can't do anything about it, which is annoying, because the Gwailo is the perfect thing to be ARO in the Blackjack, because it doesn't have immunity. So if I can hit it and catch it on fire, it might actually die. So then the Blackjack moves again. He's basically targeting Sheskiin now because he's a bit scared of her, understandably. So I ARO shoot the Blackjack's move. Blackjack decides he's going to hit me. It's pretty close. I'm hitting on 12s and he's hitting on 13s. He's obviously got a heck of a lot more shots than I do. I've only got my 1 ARO shot. I get an 11, which I'm pretty happy with, and which beats all of his stuff. Sadly, he saves my lucky shot, which is a shame because that would have been nice. He decides to go again. I do exactly the same again because the shots are pretty close. I roll too high, so I miss. He gets 3 hits, one of which goes through, and I choose to fail my guts and move out of his line of sight to basically force him to have to keep spending orders on moving to try and kill Sheskiin. Blackjack does move again, I miss again, and he hits me twice, and I fail my saves. So poor old Sheskiin is now unconscious. So the blackjack moves again. Nothing can ARO, so he moves again. Then the blackjack moves. No AROs, so then moves again. Then moves. No AROs. And so he places it in Suppressify, which is obviously a good move. He spends an order on the guy on the roof, which crawls. There are no AROs to face, so he continues to crawl. Spends another order to pop out around the corner to look at the Speculo. I don't do anything because I don't want to reveal. Tries to discover, but fails to discover, which is good. So then the same guy pretty much does the same thing, peeks out from around the corner. But this time, I do nothing. And he drops a mine right next to Speculo. Oh! Then Wild Bill. This guy's first time taking Wild Bill, and obviously it's a proxy or pseudo model. I can't remember which is the correct terminology in Infinity. Moves heaps and heaps, but there's no AROs. But when he's finished, he goes to discover. So in his next order, so he moves and moves and moves heaps, and then in his second order, he moves up and tries to discover the Speculo, which obviously now has dire consequences, because as soon as I'm revealed, the mine will explode in my face. He succeeds, because Wild Bill's ability to discover is a lot better than the people he was trying with before. So I'm down to Impersonator 1, I think. I think I'm on Impersonator 2 in Speculo's raw form, and then I go down to Impersonator 1, which basically means I'm a lot easier to discover. And he spends a command token to turn an irregular order into a regular order. This is obviously going to go, this is on Wild Bill, because he's going to try and reveal me so I blow up. I do nothing. He declares a discover. Shoot. He succeeds. He shoots and hits me with 1. I fail, and she's dead because of shock, so the mine hasn't even really had a chance to do anything. And I've lost the Speculo through doing nothing with it. And so it was a huge waste of points. It was nothing but a distraction, and all it really succeeded in doing is getting him to spend a whole bunch of orders to try and kill it. So I think I wasted the Speculo a fair amount in that game. So yeah, if you've got any ideas as to how I could maybe have done that, well, there's probably loads of ways I could have used the Speculo better. But please feel free to drop them in the comments, because I'm struggling with the strategy, because there's so many strategies that you can use with Shasvastii. Everything is kind of got its own micro strategy to it. Any inspiration would be greatly appreciated. So then the Camo token moves. The Ikadron tries to discover and fails. Then it moves, tries to discover, fails. So then it's my turn too. Things are going terribly, I feel. I actually got to the point a bit in his turn 2 where I was just going to call it. I could not see any way that I could recover from it if everything was going to carry on the way it was going, where I was just going to lose models. And so, yeah, so I was pretty disheartened. Wasn't having a great time. But I think in that turn, I obviously lost Sheskiin, I lost the Speculo. Well, I didn't have much else to lose because a lot of things died in the first turn. So, yeah, not amazing. So, yeah, in my turn 2, I basically go into this with the attitude of, can I save things? So I think I move the Ikadron into the other order pool, as I only have 4 orders, which is a terrible thing to have halfway through the game. The Gwailo decides to move up and then split fire. I don't know if this is sensible. So I'm split firing on the Blackjack and Warcore as well, because I basically just want to kill some stuff. Hit the Warcore, but he saves. I hate the Warcore. He's so good in every game I play against, and he shouldn't be this good. He stays still because he passes his guts, because he obviously wants to try and flash pulse the Gwailo again. I crit the Blackjack, and he burns and burns and burns and burns. So that was a good result from the Gwailo. Well done, Gwailo. Can't kill a Warcore, but you kill a Blackjack in 1 hit. So I move the Ikadron. He chooses to shotgun me. I choose to flame him. I think this is a case of mutually assured destruction, but it's the only thing I can think of doing as well. So he hits me. I fail my roll and go unconscious. I hit him. He fails and goes unconscious. So we're both unconscious. Then I move the other Ikadron up to cover the rear of the Gwailo, because I think he's going to try and remove the Gwailo in his 3rd turn. And that's the end of my turn. 4 orders goes very quickly. So then it's his turn 3. At this point, he thinks it's fairly even, mostly because even though I've got a few models, they're fairly high points. He's got lots of models at low points, so he thinks it could be pretty close. And he obviously is aware that I've still got my Gwailo alive, and it's potentially able to reduce the amount of points he's got. So with front line, as long as you've got loads of points in the middle area or the opponent's deployment zone, you could potentially win. So in his turn 3, Camo token moves. And then again, because I choose to delay, and then I choose to dodge, the Gwailo succeeds the dodge and turns, and he reveals a hard case. He then removes the decoy that's up near the chip stand, whatever it's called. I can't remember what it is. Oh, the cake stand. Ikadron goes for a flash pulse. The Gwailo decides to pistol it. The flash pulse hits and he's stunned. The Gwailo gets hit twice. I save them both. So as far as I'm concerned, that's a great result. I'm happy with that. He spends an order and his last Camo token to move a guy up. Wild Bill also moves up, and then he moves the firefighter dude who repairs people with his axes. I think that's how he explained it to me. I don't think it's an actual model. I'm not sure what's going on there, but it looks cool. They all move twice, so I think he's doing a coordinated order. They all move again, and Wild Bill goes prone. Then he spends an order to move the firefighter doctor up, and he goes prone. Wild Bill goes into a corner. Then he's still got like 4 or 5 orders left, and realises that he's got a great strategy that could swing the balance of the game that he hadn't even thought about using before. So right now, things are pretty even, and I might be able to kill 1 or 2 things. Then he notices his fire team, which has been parked in the corner doing nothing, apart from making me think twice about everything, so I don't want a sniper to shoot me in a 5-man fire team in ARO. He realises that he's got enough orders to potentially move them all the way up the board and throw a huge chunk of points into the middle deployment zone. So that's exactly what he chooses to do. So he basically uses, I won't bore you with the details, but uses 4 or 5 of his last orders to move the link team of 5 models all the way up the board. And it basically is just move, because I can't ARO in most cases. And even when I can, I don't want to reveal like the Caliban just to kind of have like a cheeky little pop shot. So I don't ARO even when I can. They just keep moving all the way up the board. The last order goes on the fire team again. He kind of starts to spread them out. The Ikadron tries to pulse Rosie, and Rosie shoots with the light rocket launcher. I successfully hit with a 3, but she also hits me with 3 shots that are much, much higher, and the Ikadron is just super dead. Rosie completely munches down the Ikadron. So in terms of at the end, so my final turn, my turn 3, I've got 3 models left. I've got the Malignos, which is Silentio Camo. I've got the Caliban, which is in the cake shop. I moved him up there in turn 2. Didn't mention it in my turn, but that's all I really did. And then I've got the Gwailo. That's all I've got left. And I don't think I can win the game. I'm going to still try. So the Gwailo decides to move up the ladder. Can be seen by Wild Bill, the War Corps, and 2 members of the fire team. Everything that can see the Gwailo shoots. I realised... So the reason why I moved up the ladder is because it got me out of my deployment zone and into a contested territory. Now, the Gwailo is like 45 points. So I figured I'd be contesting that. The Caliban's in the middle section. He's only like 25 points, I think, or 30 odd points. And then the Malignos is 35 odd points or so. So what I'm thinking is that I could move I've got 3 orders. I can use the Gwailo in the way I currently am. I can use the Malignos to move it up. And then if the Gwailo survives, I can maybe kill some more stuff and maybe swing the game in my favour-ish, maybe. So yeah, the Gwailo has moved up the stairs because I basically need to get out of my deployment zone, and I can't without like jumping off the building and losing line of sight to stuff, or without taking a big long route that I don't have the orders to do. So he goes up the ladder. Gwailo can be seen by Wild Bill, the War Corps, and the fire team. My choice is to split fire towards Wild Bill and the fire team. I use the blast template on Wild Bill, and I use the blast on the fire team because then I can get 2 models on the fire team, which is obviously excellent. So when I shoot Wild Bill, we both miss our shots, so nothing happens. Then I shoot the shotgun guy in that group. I hit them with the template. The shotgun guy fails his save, goes unconscious, then goes on fire, and it burns Crispy Duck. The sniper gets hit and is dead as well. So good result as far as I'm concerned from that. Obviously, then I've got loads of shots back to me. The sniper is pretty much the thing that hits me the most. He gets 3 hits. Of course, one of them is a crit, because playing against this opponent, he crits only when it matters. So Gwailo's unconscious. I then use my second to last order to move the Malignos into that middle contested area. I don't bother with my last order, pretty much because we call it. I know I can't win. Now that the Gwailo has died, it was kind of one of those things, as we were discussing in the wash-up, so me and my opponent, he's always pretty good, gives me some time afterwards to explain what I did terribly and how I could have improved. It was one of those things where the Gwailo, obviously, all it needed to, if it survived, completely different game. He didn't have anyone in his, so he had the war core in his deployment zone, still, because that didn't move far enough, so it didn't count for any points. He then didn't leave anyone in the bit just outside of his deployment zone. You know, it's definitely one of those things where in Infinity, at least for me, you can feel like you've lost from 5 seconds into turn 1. And then a couple of other things happen later, and then you think about the objective, and then you think about the army you've taken, and it's closer than you think. Sometimes things can be feeling like they're going terribly wrong, and actually they're not going as badly as you think. So I played that mission terribly wrong. It's probably one of my worst missions in recent times. I'm going to blame part of it on the fact that I haven't played Shaz in so long, that I forgot how to do things. I also spent a couple of hours before the game trying to research hidden deployment, infiltrate, TO camo, decoy camo, trying to play those better, like Speculo Killer, how can I do her as a mine layer? Sheskiin, my first time taking her. Malignos, first time taking that. Gwailo, how do I play that slightly better? Because the first time I actually took it, it died in about 5 seconds because I got really unlucky. So I spent a lot of time trying to work out how to use these complicated things well, and completely forgot the basics. Ikadron, I'd never played them before. Didn't deploy them very well. I should have just run them up the board and had them soak up a whole bunch of stuff and flamed things as they went up. Did not do that. I set them back in a defensive position where they were useless and their flamer templates couldn't reach anything. So I'm, obviously the mentor, you saw what I did there, revealed it to be flamed. And it's my lieutenant. What was I thinking? Just because I forgot that line of sight works differently. I played horrifically. And despite that, it actually kind of came down to the last turn because the Gwailo had an excellent game. It was MVP by far. It carried almost the entire thing. Sheskiin could have definitely played it better, but she actually didn't do too bad. Like once she got into the swing of things. So, and obviously the Gwailo freeing her up to actually be able to move by removing the flamer guy was obviously hugely important. So obviously Shasvastii is an incredibly popular list. I can see why. It's a steep learning curve, especially to do well. But obviously having things in camo and having things hidden also means that it's difficult to do something against an Impersonator 2 Speculo. It's difficult to do something against something in hidden deployment because you can't see it. You've got a couple of decoy camo tokens. Well, what do you do against them, especially if they're prone? Like, it's difficult to fight against Shaz, even if you're not excellent when you play it. Because when you can play it well, it's so good. So I think I've got to make a choice in that I either stick with O12 and try and make it work, and then maybe once I've got that down pat, then maybe try and make Shaz work. Get a few extra models, like some Tigers. Maybe that would work. Who knows? So yeah, I'm learning heaps, but I think the more I learn, the more I realise I've bitten off more than I can chew. Learn Infinity quickly before my competition in April. So I've got the New Zealand National Tournament in only a couple of months' time now. We've actually got a demo tournament. I don't know what to do. Anyway, didn't go great, but I learnt heaps. I've got to make a decision as to which army I'm going to kind of focus on playing well. And I've got to get some more models if I'm going to do that, to change my strategy and actually formulate a play style that really supports the army and also anything it goes up against in a tournament setting. Thank you again so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And apologies that this is a bit more of a rambly video than it should be. Got more coming. So yeah, stay tuned. It's been great fun. Thank you so much for your support.